Hi, my name's Brad Phillips. I'm here with Puppy Steps Training. Today we're going to be doing a training demonstration for you. So we're going to walk you through the program. We're going to show you everything that your puppy has learned. We're also going to teach you how to continue with the training. Now, before we get to the more demonstrating part of the program, we're first going to talk about some really important information that's going to help you have a lifetime of success with your puppy. So, your puppy is doing fantastic. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sending him home. Like I've told you before, I train to a standard, not a strict time frame. So, your puppy has reached our standard. We have very high expectations, and it's going to be important for you that as you bring them home, that you have the same expectations. Dogs are really, really neat, that they will live up to our expectations, whether we set them high or whether we set them low. And if one person in the family sets them low and everybody else is high, they're going to continue to try and test waters and see what they can get away with. So we want to make sure that the whole family is on the same page. And that's also why these demonstrations are so important, so that we can set the bar before our puppy ever enters into our home. Now, it's important to remember, your puppy is a puppy. And so they're going to have energy and they're going to make mistakes. Just because they went through our training program does not make them a perfect dog. I always like to joke with people, if you were expecting perfection, you might want to run over to Walmart and grab you a stuffed animal. And even there, you're probably going to find a flaw. So it's important to understand that our puppy is going to make mistakes. But it's also important to understand how to deal with those mistakes as they arise. Because failure or making mistakes is a very important part of learning. And so we have what we call our 3 keys to success. Now these are how we try and keep mistakes at a minimum and make sure they don't become bad habits. They're also how we continue with the training and make sure that we have success in our home. So those 3 keys are consistency, follow through, and management. You have to have all 3. These 3 things teach our puppy that we are the leader, that we're going to take care of them, that they don't have to worry, and that their needs are going to be met. Now, so we're going to start with consistency. We've taught them a certain way, and so it's important to try and be consistent along the same lines. Now, if you say things a little bit differently, as long as you're consistent with that, your puppy will understand, but it may take them a few days. And that's why we talk about the transition period. And so for the next 2 to 4 weeks, your puppy is going to be transitioning. During this transition period, they're trying to learn what the expectations are. They're trying to learn the way that you give commands. They're going to learn what they're allowed to get away with and what they're not. And especially over the next 3 days, your puppy is going to be confused. And so they're going to probably test more boundaries, just trying to see whether that consistency, that follow through, that management, they're going to try and see whether those are there. Now, also during this transition period, they're going to be undergoing a period of stress. They're leaving a familiar environment, now being thrown into an unfamiliar environment. So they may lose their appetite. They may get what we call the puppy blues, where they're not as active as they usually are. Maybe they seem a little bit sad. They also may act out once again and see what they can get away with. So it's important that we are patient with them. I want to try and really focus on building a relationship with my puppy during these first 3 days versus trying to build these commands up back to where we have them right now. Because with the stress, there's also going to be just a little bit of regression. Now, regression doesn't mean that they're going to pee in the house or that they're not going to do commands for you. It just means, once again, that they're going to be under stress, and so we're going to take that into an account, and we're going to lower our expectations just a little bit. Now, I'm always going to enforce manners. It doesn't matter whether they're stressed or not. They're not allowed to bite me. They're not allowed to jump up. They're not allowed to break through doorways. So we're going to expect the manners, and we're going to show you all of these here in a few minutes. But the commands, I'm going to keep to a minimum. Now, during this demonstration, we're going to show you some amazing stays, the place command, and they're doing awesome. But we're going to take that down. We're not going to expect them to hold a 5-minute stay on their place within the first 3 days. Instead, I'll still do these commands, but I'm going to keep them really light. I'm going to keep them fun, and I'm going to make sure that I'm helping my puppy succeed. I always want to train to success, not to failure. I never want to play guess what's in my head. I want to make sure that they have all the answers to the test. So now let's just break down those 3 keys. So the first one, consistency. We are a balanced dog training program, and so we have markers for both reinforcement and correction. And you're going to want to use these same markers. They give a clear understanding of whether your puppy is doing the right thing or the wrong thing. Like I said, we want to give them lots of information, lots of feedback. So our positive markers, we have the word good and the word okay. So good is a marker that means keep going. It's an intermediary marker. So if I put them on a place, I'm going to tell them place. I'm going to say like good girl or good boy, and I'm going to enforce that you're doing the right thing. However, you are not done. Now, when they are finished with that command, when I'm releasing them from that stay, then I'll use the word okay. So okay marks the correct behavior. It tells them that they're released from a stay and that they've done the right thing. And so it's really important to use these markers to give them that information. Once again, I'll tell them good. So that's good job, keep going. Okay, you're finished, you're able to get off, you're able to maybe venture out a little bit, give them a little bit of freedom. Okay just means that you're done with that behavior at that time. Now, we also are giving them rewards during this time. So your puppy right now is very food motivated. That is their currency. Just as you would not go to work if you did not receive a paycheck, your puppy is not going to work for you unless they're being rewarded or they're paid out. Now, eventually, as they get a little bit older, we can wean those rewards off. There's also times where I don't want to use a food reward. But right now, and especially during this transition period, we want to use a high value reward. And so I'll give them a little piece of treat. I might give them some ham or hot dogs or maybe a little bit of cheese, something high value, just to really drive this point home that I'm going to reward you and that I have the same expectations and that this is very positive for working for me. Now, there are going to be times where you don't have food on you, and that's where I'll use praise and affection. And of course, I mix that in with everything. I want to praise my dog. I want to show them affection and really show them that they're doing the right thing. Now, if I'm using a toy as a reward, which a toy is a good form of a reward, that's when I do not want to have treats on me. I want them to be focused on that toy. Because the moment that I pull out a treat, then they're going to forget about the toy and they're going to want to work for food. And I want them to have a good toy drive because that's a really important way to mentally stimulate your dog as well as meet their physical needs so that we can give them exercise. So those are our three primary forms of rewards. That's food, praise and affection, and toys. So use all three, but really keep it heavy on simple treats right now. Really drive this point home. Now, when we talk about a correction, so that's our second part of consistency. Like I said, you have to have both. I do not believe that you need to physically dominate your dog. I want our relationship to be built out of respect for me as the leader. And so I give them, once again, a lot of feedback, but my correction a lot of times is just no, and that's all it is. Dogs read our voice fluctuation and our body language very, very well. And so me changing my voice and just giving them a sharp no is all the correction I need. Now, once your dog fixes their mistake, then I'm not going to carry on this correction for a long period of time because your dog's not going to understand. They're just going to think that you're mad at them. And so the correction needs to be quick, it needs to be timely, and then we're done. So like I said, no is kind of that primary correction. Sometimes it's whatever comes out of my mouth, depending on the severity or depending on the action. Now, to kind of give you an example, once again, if I'm working with them and I put them in a stay and they break, it happens all the time because once again, we learn a lot through failure. Now, if they break a stay, I'm not going to get mad. It's not that big a deal. We're working, we're training and learning. And so I'll just simply, no, and then I'll have them do it again. I will always end on a correct behavior. I am never going to end on a failure. And if I have to break a behavior down to make sure that we get that correct repetition, I will. Now, if they do something a little bit more serious, maybe they jump up on me, which is one of my biggest pet peeves, then I'm going to give them a little bit more of a sharp correction. So it would be, no, off. My voice gets a little deeper. A lot of times I kind of puff out my chest and I'm changing my body language. Once again, that's enough of a correction. And then let's say they do something a little bit more serious, like they start to pee in the house. That's when I get frantic. And so my correction might look like, no, 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 no. And I'm just trying to get them to stop. And then I'm going to quickly take them outside. And just as important as that correction is following through and making sure I teach them what the expected behavior is, which I'll get to in just 1 minute. The last part of a correction I want to talk about is a physical correction. Now, once again, I don't believe you need to physically dominate your dog, but there is power, once again, in telling your dog no, and I will accompany that with a leash pop, which is just pop, pop. I'm not trying to yank them around. It's not to inflict any harm. The purpose of that is to regain their attention to then change their behavior. Now, once again, I don't want to injure my dog. I don't want to yank them around. It is not to inflict harm at all. It is simply to regain composure. So that's consistency. You need to consistently reward. You need to consistently correct. You have to have both. Whatever you reinforce will get replicated. And so if you are not consistent and the only time you give your dog feedback is when they're doing something wrong, guess what? They're probably not going to respect you, and instead it's going to be more of a fear-based relationship, which is what we don't want. So even if my puppy is just laying at my feet chewing on something they're supposed to, I might simply just bend down, pet them a little bit, tell them they're being a good boy. We want to give them that feedback, and especially as you're working with them, as you start to implement the commands and the leash work, give them that feedback. It is going to build your relationship more than anything you can do. So be consistent. Once again, anytime I give my dog a correction, I want to then follow through and help them understand what the correct behavior is. So that's where key number 2 comes in. So key number 2, follow through. Like I said, anytime that I correct my dog, I want to then teach them what the expected behavior is. So I'm always going to follow through. Whether I ask them to do a command and they are confused or maybe they ignore me, or whether they're doing something they're not supposed to and we catch them in the act. The follow through is a little bit different on each one. So first off, let's talk about maybe you're sitting there and you see your puppy go over and start to try and chew on a baseboard or chew on something they're not supposed to. This is where we use a concept that we call marking and redirecting. So if I saw them start chewing on something they weren't supposed to, I'm going to immediately correct them. So that correction is no. Now, once I correct them, they look at me, I'm going to redirect them into an appropriate behavior. So even if they don't look at me, I'm then going to remove them from that situation. So we'll use the example of chewing on a baseboard. I'll tell them no. Now I'm going to take them over to maybe their bed and I'll give them something to chew on. And so marking the incorrect behavior, redirecting into an appropriate behavior. Now during this puppy stage, puppies need to chew. And so my redirection, I'm going to try and match texture. They were chewing on a baseboard, maybe I'll give them a bully stick or a marrow bone, something hard that they can really get into. If they want to chew on maybe one of your pillows or a soft bed, give them a plush toy. They're chewing on their leash, give them a rope. Try and match those needs, match consistency. So you can do that with a lot of different behaviors. Even jumping is another one. A lot of times if your puppy's jumping, I'll correct them for jumping and then I'll redirect them into an appropriate behavior like a sit. So we teach them, if they want our attention, they've got to do this behavior. This is a good behavior versus the bad behavior. Now let's talk about follow through if they ignore you or maybe don't understand. So let's use the example of jumping on the couch. Let's say we're in the kitchen, we're cooking, we look over and Marley is jumping up on the couch. So I would immediately say, Marley, off, giving her a command. If she gets down and listens to that, then I'm going to reward her. So I'm going to reinforce the behavior that she just performed. If she got down, maybe came over to me, I'm going to pet her. I'm going to tell her she's a good girl because she fixed her mistake. And so the correction is done. She did the right behavior after she was asked. That's all that needs to happen. Now, if she didn't, if she had her paws up there and she looked over her shoulder like, hey, what are you going to do about it? You're over there. I will not repeat the command. The worst thing you can do is sit there and go, Marley, off, get down, get off the couch. Because you're just giving her a whole spiel of what she doesn't understand. If she doesn't do the behavior when asked, I am not going to repeat the command. I will correct her. So if I said, Marley, off, and she didn't get down, I am then going to say no, and now I'm going to start to approach her. I'm going to walk across the room. Even if I am comfortable wrapped up in a blanket, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go and remove her. Now, if she fixed her mistake with that prompt, if I said no and I started to motion towards her and she got down, I'm going to reward that behavior. I'll call her over, have her sit, praise her, make sure that she understands that, yes, that's exactly what I want. That's a good girl. Now, if she still ignored you and kept trying to get up onto the couch, or maybe succeeded and now is trying to get comfortable, I am going to walk all the way over to her, and at that point I will repeat the correction. I will not repeat the command. I will tell her no again, and now I'm going to remove her and I am going to redirect her into an appropriate activity. Whether that's you're going to come over by me, you're going to lay on the floor, you're going to chew on a toy, or maybe it's, okay, I can't watch you very well right now, you're just going to go take a little break in the crate. Now I'm not going to be super mad and shove her in the crate and make it a big deal, because then you're going to destroy the crate. Instead, the correction has already happened. Now I'm redirecting her into something appropriate to do. And so the correction is done. I do not need to carry on this frustration or this anger after the correction has happened. But I am always going to give them that correction, and I am always going to follow through. Now, let's just say that I gave your puppy a command, and so I put them in. Sorry, let me take that back. Let's just say that I asked them for a sit. So I said sit, gave them a hand signal, and they looked at me like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never seen this command before. Now, instead of getting frustrated and repeating myself, I'm going to maybe adjust my body language. The worst thing you can do is go sit, sit, no sit, sit, because they're not going to understand at that point. Dogs don't speak English. They understand the sound of our voice making that sound of sit. And so they know that it's one time. So sit is the command, not sit, 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 sit. So one time, ask them once. Now, once again, if they look up at me like, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm going to give them a few seconds to think about it. Dogs are not robots. They have to process things. And at the same time, while I'm allowing them to process, maybe I'll adjust my body language. So maybe I'll kind of lean forward or make the hand gesture. But I'm going to help them succeed. Now then, if they blatantly ignored me and just tried to walk off, that is when I will correct them. I will say, no, now I'm going to reset. So I'm going to bring them back to the same area and ask them again. But I will only repeat the command if they completely walk away. If they are focused on me, just trying to understand what I am asking, I will not repeat the command, but I will adjust my body language to help them succeed. If they ignore me or they run off, then I will implement a correction and reset to where I will repeat the command. So hopefully that makes sense. If you do have any questions on any of this, please let me know. But follow through is super important. The moment that you don't follow through, the moment you call your dog to come and they run the other direction and you say, I'll get them later, is the moment that your dog loses respect for you and are going to try and push more and more buttons or try and push more and more boundaries. So it is so important that you follow through and help your dog succeed. Give them necessary feedback and information. So that was key number 2. We've got consistency, number 1, follow through, number 2, and now number 3, which is management. Management is going to be the most important thing you do throughout this transition period. When we manage our dog, we maintain control and we provide an environment where they don't even have the opportunity to create bad habits. Good management when bringing a puppy home is 100% supervision. 100% supervision is active eyes on them at all times. That's not, well, I saw them a few minutes ago. You have to know what they're doing at all times, what they have in their mouth, what they're getting into, where they're laying down, all of it. 100% supervision. Now, there are some good management tools to help you along the way. The crate is your best management tool. You know that if they're in the crate, they're not chewing something up, they're not destroying a family heirloom, and they're not peeing. So use the crate to your advantage. Anytime you cannot give them 100% supervision, use the crate as management. Use a leash. I let my puppies drag around just a really lightweight 4-foot leash for the first few weeks that they're in my house. That way I have a quick way to grab them if needs be, or to take them outside. I will also keep them on a long lead until I've built a relationship to where I know that they are going to follow through and they are going to come back when called. So that once again, this way, they do not have an opportunity to run off and not listen to me. They don't have an opportunity to create a bad habit. Now, as we go throughout the manners, we're going to talk about how to manage those each individually because they're all managed a little bit differently. But the key points to remember is 100% supervision. That is the most important thing you are going to do over this transition period. Know where your dog is at all times. And once again, that's not, oh, I knew where they were 2 minutes ago. It's, I know where they are now, I know what they're chewing on. Because if you walk around the corner and your dog has had an accident and you don't see it, there's nothing you can do. And so by good management, you provide the opportunity to develop a relationship as well as to create a set of expectations that your dog understands and that are going to set you up for success. So recap, the 3 keys: be consistent, both rewarding and correcting. Lots of feedback is important. Whatever you reinforce will get replicated. If you ask them to do something, follow through. Do not allow your dog to get away with ignoring you or ending on an incorrect behavior. Always train to success, not to failure. And make sure that you follow through. If you ask them to do it, help them succeed. And the last one, management. Manage your dog, 100% supervision. You know what they are getting into at all times. You know where they are. That is going to set you up for success. So now we're going to switch gears and we're going to pull out your puppy and we're going to walk through all of the training with you. As you watch this video, please write down questions and then give me a phone call or an email. We want to help you succeed. We want to make sure that this transition is as smooth as possible. And that is, once again, the purpose of this video is to help you. And so if you have any questions, please let us know. But we're very happy with where your puppy's at and excited to show off this training. This next video, we're going to be talking about our expectations with crate training and house training. Now, with the crate, I expect that your puppy is sleeping through the night, 8 hours, no problem, and up to 4 hours during the day. Now, in the evening time, the biggest part of crate training is setting a routine. So here at Puppy Steps Training, we're putting them to bed at 10 p.m. and getting them up at 6 a.m. So a good solid 8 hours. Now, they can go longer than that as they get a little bit older, but as you bring them home, don't expect to push that right away. If you are going to adjust that schedule, do it incrementally and go slow. Just know that at about 5:50, 6 o'clock, they're going to start getting restless because they're used to getting up at that time. Now, another big part of sleeping through the night is that mealtime routine. So we feed them at 6 p.m. and usually right around 6 a.m. The morning time, that a.m. meal, isn't super important that you stick to that schedule. You can honestly get them up and feed them when you're ready. However, the evening time meal, we do want to feed them by 6 p.m., no later than that, because I do want a good 4 hours for them to clear everything that's in their system so that they can sleep through the night. Now, we also limit water for the first couple weeks because they're stressed out. When a puppy's stressed out, they drink a lot more and they have to go to the bathroom a lot more. So we want to just, take away some of the fuel for that fire. I still want to make sure that they have plenty of access to water. I just don't want unlimited access. So anytime that they're spending a lot of time outside, I do want to make sure they have access to water. I also want to make sure that they have water when they're eating, and then I'll give it to them, several times throughout the day. But as soon as I feel like they're done or they've had enough, we're going to take it away. Because what I don't want to do is them drink so much that then they're distended. So I don't want them feeling like a panic that they need to drink because it's going to get taken away, but I also don't want them to think that they can just engorge themselves. So hopefully that makes sense, but that routine is a big part of sleeping through the night. Now, they shouldn't be having accidents and they shouldn't be making noise in the crate. So if they do make some noise in the crate, for the first couple minutes, we're going to ignore that. We're going to let them just settle down, especially in the first day or two as they get home. They are going to be under some stress, and so you're their source of comfort. But I don't want them thinking that if they throw a big fit, that you're going to let them out. So for the first 5 minutes, just let them kind of cry it out. Then the first thing that I'll go to is just draping a blanket over the crate. By doing that, we're making sure that they can't see outside, and they're a lot like parrots. If they can't see what's going on, they're going to settle down easier. We've also taught them a hush command. If they do, just continue carrying on. And so if I need to give them that command, it'll be no, hush. And so it's a little bit louder. Obviously, you're implementing a correction, and they should quiet down. Now, if they just carry on like they didn't even hear that, then I might accompany with a little tap on top. So I'm not banging on the crate, but it will just be, no, hush. And it's just to break them of their reverie. I don't want to, kick the crate across the room or cause like any type of fearfulness, but it's just like, hey, knock it off. So that's our correction there. Now, the biggest mistake that you can make with crate training is letting them out if they are crying. Because as soon as you do that, they figure out like, oh, if I throw a fit, they're gonna let me out. So absolutely no positive attention if they're crying in the crate. The second worst thing that you can do is come over and go, oh, it's okay, I'll let you out in a minute, and stick your fingers in the crate. Because same thing, you're giving them positive attention for throwing a fit. So it is no positive attention if they're crying in the crate. If they are making noise and you are about to let them out, still expect some silence. So I'll tell them hush, and I want them to give me like 10 seconds of silence. If you think, oh my goodness, they're gonna have an accident, they need to go to the bathroom, then I might expect still some silence, but it might be more like 3 seconds. So I'd say hush, okay, now let's go, and we'll get them outside. So that's our evening stuff. During the day, they should also be able to be in their crate comfortably without making noise, without having accidents. Like I said, we build that up to 4 hours at a time. You can put them in the crate more than that. I just don't do longer than a 4-hour block at this point. I utilize the crate very heavily while we're transitioning and while we're working on potty training. So don't be afraid to put them in the crate. It is honestly your best friend. They can be inside the crate for as little as a minute, all the way up to that 4 hours. So anytime you can't give them that 100% supervision, utilize the crate. Now we also want to use the crate both when we're home as well as when we leave. If we only put our puppy in the crate when we're leaving, you're going to build some separation anxiety. They're going to associate the crate with you leaving, and it's going to cause even more panic, even more noise. So utilize the crate when you're home, when you're in the same room as them, as well as when you leave. Now, the other thing is, don't make it obvious that you're leaving all the time. If you make a big deal out of putting them in the crate when you are leaving, same thing, you're going to build some separation anxiety. And it's the same concept when you come home. If you come in the door and you immediately rush over to your dog and, oh, I missed you, you're going to build a charge and they're going to go crazy in the crate. So we want to make sure that that's kind of nonchalant. I'll get to you in a second. Sometimes I'll let you out immediately. Sometimes I'll go to the bathroom or go get a drink. And that way we don't build that charge, but it should be a very calm experience being in the crate. So with that, now I want to talk about our expectations with house training. So your puppy, if they're going home, obviously is doing very, very well with house training. My expectations are that they can be inside the house for 2 hours without needing a break, without having accidents. Now they've been doing that here, but we're going to drop or lower our expectations for the first couple weeks to make sure that we train to success. Now that's not saying that I expect a bunch of regression and you're going to have accidents. It's just saying that I'm going to set them up for success. We always train to success, and I want to make sure that I don't give them the opportunity to fail. So we're going to give you a very strict schedule for the first 2 weeks, and if you'll just follow that, you're not going to give them, once again, that opportunity for accidents. Now, before I go into that schedule, just a couple things that I want to talk about. One is, obviously, there's going to be some hills and valleys with the house training, but we always want them in this forward progression. So once again, we're going to set them up for success. So that's a big part of the schedule, is giving them lots of opportunities to go to the bathroom. And honestly, during these first 2 weeks, paranoia is going to be your best friend. If you even think that they're going to have an accident, or they're like, maybe they need to go to the bathroom, just take them outside. I would much rather take them out 10 times than clean up one accident. You're also going to look for a lot of indicators that they need to go. Once again, 100% supervision is the most important thing you're going to do during this transition. So if you're watching them and you notice that they get up and try and walk away from you, that's an indicator that they may need to go. If they start sniffing really heavily, panting, pacing around, just take them outside. Once again, if your gut says maybe they need to go, just take them out. Now, if they get up and they start spinning little circles, just take them outside. Nobody likes what happens next. Okay, so those are the indicators that we're looking for. If they have an accident, there's kind of 2 scenarios we look for. One, if they have it away from you and you don't see it, but you stumble across it later, whether it's 2 minutes, whether it's an hour, there is nothing you can do about that. That means that you weren't giving them enough attention, you weren't paying attention to them, and so that's a slap on the wrist. We need to do better as the owner. If you can't give them that supervision, put them in the crate. So scenario number 2 is they start peeing right in front of us. If they're gonna have an accident, that's what I want because it provides a very valuable opportunity to teach them what I expect. So I'm gonna correct them right there. So it's no, 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 and I'm gonna grab them and run them outside. Now, once I get outside, I'm gonna change my attitude and I'm gonna bury that frustration deep down and I'm gonna give them the opportunity to finish. If they finish going to the bathroom outside, I am then going to praise and reward that behavior. That way I create a very black and white experience. It's absolutely not, you do not pee here. Yes, that's where I want you to go. Good dog, good girl, good boy, right? The worst thing you can do is they start peeing in front of you and you just kick them outside and then go and clean it up. Because now they just peed, they got corrected, but then they got to go outside and play. So it's so important that we go with them and we make sure that they have a job to do when they're going to the bathroom outside. Okay, so now our routine. So once again, it's, I consider it a minor inconvenience for the next 2 weeks for a lifetime of good house training. We did this at the very beginning, but once again, we're gonna take them back down just to make sure we train to success. So here it is. First 24 hours, we are gonna take them over to the bell, they're gonna ring it, and we're gonna go to the bathroom every 30 minutes. They get a treat when they ring the bell and when they go to the bathroom. Okay, so first 24 hours, every 30 minutes. The exception to all of this is if they're in the crate, you don't need to pull them out every 30 minutes, or if they're just passed out asleep, I'm just gonna watch them and I'm gonna wait till they wake up. Okay, so day 1, first 24 hours every 30 minutes. Day 2, I'm going to 45 minutes. Same thing, they're gonna ring the bell, we're gonna take them outside, they get a treat for ringing the bell, they get a treat for going to the bathroom. If they don't go to the bathroom, we just come right back in. It's a very neutral experience. Also, these first 2 days, because we are taking them out so often, I'm only gonna give them a minute outside. It's gonna be quick, we have a job to do, we're coming back inside. Now, if they haven't went for a couple hours and you're getting nervous, put them in the crate for 20 minutes and then do it again, okay? Don't just give them free access to your house, especially if they haven't went to the bathroom for a little bit. Okay, so now day 3. At day 3, we're moving to an hour. So every hour, we're gonna take them to the bells, give them an opportunity to go to the bathroom. But now we're changing things. They are no longer gonna get a treat when they ring the bell. It is only if they go to the bathroom, okay? Where we're taking them out every hour, I'm also gonna bump the time to being, I will give them 3 minutes outside, but no more than that. That's all they need, 3 minutes, we come back in. So for the next few days, so from days 3 to 8, I am staying at 1 hour. I am not gonna surpass that. Every hour, we're going to the bells, we're giving them an opportunity to go to the bathroom. Okay, so that's the first week. Week number 2, all depends on how they did during week number 1. If they've done phenomenal, you haven't even thought about having an accident or didn't have a close call, we're gonna progress to 2 hours. So for me, I still go every 15 minutes and work up. But the exception is if I get up to an hour and a half and we have a close call, then maybe I'll drop them back down. So I am more than willing to take away some of that freedom. I'm very, very slow to give it, very quick to take it away. But same thing, I'm only gonna give them 3 minutes outside. They have the opportunity to go to the bathroom, we come right back in. You do not need to give them any more than 3 minutes outside. Otherwise, they're gonna get distracted, they're gonna stall, and they're not focused on what the job is, okay? So that's the first 2 weeks. We're gonna work up to 2 hours. From 2 weeks to a month, we are not surpassing 2 hours. Once again, be slow to give them that freedom, be quick to take it away. If you can follow this schedule, I promise you're gonna have success because 1, we're beating them to the punch. This is not about them having to go to the bathroom that frequently. It is all about establishing a pattern, establishing a routine. This is where the bells are, this is where we're gonna go to the bathroom. My expectations are for you to go in this certain place. Now, it's also important that you take them outside on a leash. That's gonna help them focus on what they're doing. It can be a long lead, but I don't wanna just give them free access to run and play, okay? So that's our routine. Now I'm gonna switch the camera angle and I'm gonna show you how we target the bells. Come here, good boy. All right, so now we're gonna talk about targeting the bells. So the first thing you're gonna do when you get home is you're gonna pull your bells out of your bag and we're gonna go through this exercise. The first part of this exercise we do off the door. You're only gonna do this one time, but I'm gonna hang the bells in front of Bodhi here and I'm gonna reward him for touching them. I'm gonna do this 4 or 5 times before I move to the door. Okay, once we do this and we move to the door, Then I'm going to do a similar exercise where I'm going to lean up against the doorway and I'm going to stare at the bells. Every time he touches them, I'm going to say, okay, outside. I'll do that 3 or 4 times before taking him out. So we're just going to do those 2 parts one time. When I take him outside, I'm going to give him 1 to 3 minutes, depending on where we're at, to go to the bathroom, periodically saying the word outside. Now when he goes, I'm going to say, okay, good outside. I'm going to make it very rewarding. I'm going to give him a treat. I'm going to praise him because I really want to reinforce that behavior. If he doesn't go, we just come back inside. It's a neutral experience. We start over, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate that. So I'm just going to hang the bells. I'm going to stare at him, and stare at the bells. Every time he touches them, I'm going to say, okay. Okay, good boy. Do this 4 or 5 times. Okay, good boy. Okay, good boy. You can see that he quickly learns that this is a good little treat dispenser. Okay, good boy. So we're just making it fun. He's done that a handful of times. Now we're going to go to the door. Also, a little tip for you. I like to drop the leash and step on it. Okay, outside. That way I can keep control of him and I have both hands free. Okay, outside. Good boy. Okay, outside. Good boy. So I'm going to have him do it one more time and then we're going to go outside. Okay, outside. Good boy. And once again, I'm going to walk him around on leash, periodically saying outside. Okay. You'll also notice he's expected to wait at the doorway. Okay, good boy. Now, after you do that little exercise, from here on out, when you target the bells, it's just going to be walking him over, staring at the bells. Once he rings it, okay, outside, and then we go outside, okay? And remember, for the first 2 days, I'm giving him a treat for ringing the bells. After that, no more treats. I also want to mention, don't be surprised if for the first 2 weeks, he doesn't go and ring the bells on his own. He may, but then again, we're going to be beating him to the punch so many times that he may not need to go. So we're going to beat him to the bells. So don't be worried about that. The other thing that I want to mention is just if he rings the bells, we have to go outside to the bathroom. There is no play. There is no, you just barely went out, so I'm going to ignore you. You have to take him out. If he keeps hitting the bells one right after another, then redirect him into something else to do. If you were headed outside to go for a walk or to go and play and he rings the bells, we're going to have to go, okay, outside. We're going to go to the bathroom and then we're going to come back in, wait 10 to 20 seconds, and then we'll go outside. So if you're going outside to play or a walk, make sure you forego the bells. So that's our expectations with crate training and house training. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We want to make sure this transitions over smooth, but this is definitely, as far as the house training goes, this is definitely the part of the program that requires the most effort because it is those 2 weeks of constantly having to take him out. And then every dog house trains differently. So it may go longer than that till you feel confident and comfortable, but don't give him too much freedom until you trust him and you have that relationship. So I quickly want to demonstrate the bells with Zoey. You just saw me go through it with Mojo, but I do want to make sure that I show you how we do this with Zoey. So same process. I'm going to take these bells. Here, make sure that you can see Zoey. Right here. I'm going to step on that leash, hang them in front of her, and just wait for her to touch them. As soon as she does, okay, good girl. Reward her. I'll do this 3 to 5 times just to get her ringing the bells out of my hands. Okay, good girl. I'll do it one more time here and then we'll hang him on the door. You can tell that she's like, why are we doing it this way? Okay, good girl. So now I hang him on the door and I'm gonna move her over this way. There we go. And now I'll wait for her to ring them off the door. Okay, outside, good girl. Have her do this 2 or 3 times. Okay, outside, good girl. One more time. Okay, outside, good girl. And now we'll take her out. I do expect her to wait at the door. Okay. Okay. Now when I'm outside, I give her a minute or two to go to the bathroom, and then we come right back in. If she goes, I'm telling her, okay, good outside, good girl, and rewarding her. If she doesn't, it's a neutral experience, we'll come in. So now, after you've done that exercise once, you've set your timer for the next 30 minutes. At that point, for the rest of, any time that you have her target the bells, we're just gonna walk up, have her ring them once, tell her, okay, outside, good girl, and go outside. So, good girl. With that, we'll move on to our next section. Now we're going to be pulling Zoey out of the crate here and going to be demonstrating some of the training that she's received. So we're going to go through the manners first, then we'll go through the obedience commands. After that, we'll switch the camera angle and we'll go through the leash work. So Zoey's doing really, really well. I'm super excited to show this off for you. So like I said, we're going to start with the manners. So first things first, we are going to talk about her gates and her doorways. So anytime we come out of the crate, we go through a house door or any closed door. I do expect Zoey to wait. This should be an automatic behavior. I'm not going to tell her stay, wait, anything like that. However, if she tries to break, then I'm going to simply tell her no, and then I'll either block her with closing that crate door, lifting my leg up. I'm just not going to let her bust her way through. If she does, if she manages to sneak past us, we are going to tell her no, go and get her, and have her do it again. So just as we mentioned in the earlier portions of this video, we are never going to let her get away with failure. We're always going to help her succeed. So even as simple as that, like her breaking through a doorway, we're going to tell her no and help her do the correct behavior. So I'm going to pull her out. You're going to see her do this with the crate door, and then we will walk outside and come back in just so I can show you an exterior door. Hi, Miss Zoey. So I can open up this crate door, and I expect her to wait. Now, if she tried to break through, I just simply close that door. Okay. Once I'm ready for her to come out, I can tell her okay and release her. Good girl. Oh, good girl. Now, for the house door, one, it's always a good idea to have a leash attached, so that way I can manage her. If she tries to hurry and scoot by, I can either use my leg or that leash, give her that simple correction. Hi, sweetheart. Okay. Coming back in is the same thing. Okay. And she's able to go through. Now, when we are going through doors, I don't care who goes first, whether it's me or whether it's her. She just needs to show that she's in control. So at your home, you can establish your expectations, whether you want this to continue to be every closed door. For my personal dogs, I just have any exterior doors or anytime they're coming through a gate outside or coming out of the crate. So you can kind of customize this to whatever fits your home. Now, we're going to show you the greeting exercise. So we have taught her a greeting anytime she approaches me. I expect her to sit down. Good girl, good girl. So this is a replacement behavior for jumping. This is how I want her to greet every member of the family. Now this is a hard one to do for strangers, so don't expect her to walk up to every new person and immediately sit. But I do expect this for us. So for the next couple days, we need to establish this in your home, teach her that you have the same expectations. So I'm going to have you do a little exercise where you're going to take your treat bag, you're going to take the leash, and we are going to call her name, take a few steps back, stop, wait for her to sit, and I'm going to reward this. So it looks like this. Zoey. Take a few steps back. She sits. Okay, good girl. Zoey. Okay, good girl. Zoey. Good girl. So this is a very simple exercise, but it's teaching her to engage with us. It's also teaching her, once again, those expectations. So for the next 3 days, practice this. Also reward her anytime that she does approach you and offers a sit. After you get through these 3 days, then I'm going to wean off of the treats. So for me and Zoey, as well as all the other trainers here, Anytime she approaches and she sits, she just gets our attention. So this is a much better way to get our attention than trying to jump up at us. Oh, good girl, good girl. Now, once again, this is not a behavior she's going to offer for every new person or every stranger, nor do I expect her to. I don't want her to think that she needs to greet every new person or stranger. So one, if you're out on a walk and somebody asks to come up and pet your dog, one, it's okay to say no. In fact, I prefer it. No. So if she's going to try and chew on that leash, she's going to get corrected. So once again, I would say no. That's my preference. I don't need her thinking that she needs to greet every new person. If you do allow her to, then it becomes this exciting thing that every person she sees on a walk, she's going to start pulling to. So I would just tell people no. But if you are going to allow somebody to meet her, or you are going to talk to somebody on the street, I would approach, I would stop maybe 5-6 feet away, have her do this sit to greet for you, reward her, and then you can invite that person over. So it's much easier for someone else to approach us versus us approaching them. That way I can make sure Zoe's in control. She's not jumping, she's not pulling. If she does get out of control, I'm going to tell her no, and I'm going to walk away. Have her regain her focus on me, then we can approach again. If she's out of control, she does not get to greet people. She does not get to approach any distraction if she is out of control. Are you a good girl? Now, if she did jump up on me, my command is off. So if she jumped up, I would step into her. I'm going to bring that knee up and tell her off. Now, this counts for jumping up on people as well as any of your furniture, anything that she's not allowed to put her paws up or jump onto. I'm going to tell her off. So she is a very energetic dog. She's got a lot of drive. So with people, and especially with kids, if you are afraid that Zoe is going to jump on you, she comes barreling up to you, it is so important that we never step backwards. Because as you saw in that greeting exercise, as soon as I step backwards, she's going to just continue to follow me. So instead, if I think she's going to jump on me, I'm going to step into her, I'm going to restrict the space, back her up, kind of throw her off of her gate, and then wait for her to sit. Once again, if she jumps up, bring that knee up, tell her off. If you had a hold of the leash and you were kind of approaching somebody, she starts to jump, I'm going to tell her no, off, pop that leash twice, walk away. So she does not get to jump up on anybody. I am very, very quick to correct this behavior. But then, as soon as she shows that she's in control, she sits down. Oh, good girl. I'm going to reward her for that. Now, if she's jumping up because she's trying to meet you halfway to get a treat, in that situation, I tell her gently. So she is very, very food motivated. So if I'm presenting this treat, nope, gently, and those paws come off the ground, I'm going to remove the treat, tell her no, gently, and then expect her to be patient, wait for me, and take it very polite. So she does not get a treat unless all 4 paws are on the ground and the teeth are away. Because I don't want her thinking that she can bite my fingers, no, or that she can rear up. No. Good, good. So, one, this is practicing some impulse control, as well as it's helping her understand that she has to keep all 4 paws on the ground. So, oh, good girl. Gently also pertains to the way that she takes treats. So I always give puppies treats in the palm of my hand, and then I cover them with my thumb. So that way, if she is being a little too mouthy, I can wait for her to calm down before I present that treat, before I allow her to take it. She also can only get that treat if she's using her tongue. Now, we have practiced giving her a treat between our thumb and forefinger, although that is the easiest way to get your fingers bit. And that's the way that kids always want to give them the treat. So instead, palm of your hand and expect her to be very polite. Gently. Good girl. Good girl. Oh, yeah, you are a good girl. Okay, so mealtime manners. Anytime I feed Zoe, I expect her to hold a sit stay. Now, we've been expecting this to be automatic now. Notice I shook that bowl, she sat down. The objective here is that I should be able to take a few steps back, put that bowl, down, stand all the way back up. Okay, good girl. Notice she broke, so I just picked that food bowl right back up. I will do this as many times as it takes. She does not get a break for her food bowl. I should be able to set that down, hand back up. Good girl. Huh. No. See, that one I could just correct her and step in between. Okay, good girl. Good girl. But I want her to show that she's in control and she's looking to me for information and permission to eat. Oh, good girl. Notice that she's very comfortable with me around her food bowl. She's not getting tense or aggressive. We want to make sure that she's very comfortable and she doesn't show any type of resource guarding. Good girl. And this counts, or I should say, we work on this with not only her food, but also toys, bully sticks, anything that's hers. I want to be able to handle it and not have her get tense or growl or anything like that. If she did, I would tell her no and I'd take it away. So she has to be very, very polite. Good girl. Part of this is also our handling. So we spend a lot of time handling our puppies, making sure that they're comfortable being put in weird situations. So just the way that we hold them, oh, good girl. We handle their paws, especially when we're clipping nails. Handle ears, mouth. See those teethers. Oh yeah, all your baby teeth still. Oh, good girl. Yeah, good girl. I want to make sure that she's very used to me handling her and she's not going to get tense or aggressive with me. Good girl. But anytime I do put her in a weird situation, I want to make sure that I pay her out. I want to tell her that even though that was weird, we still need to be calm and in control. Good girl. Let me see those teeth again. So, hey, like this, she didn't like it. I'm not going to keep digging my fingers in her mouth. I'll take a step back, but I do want her to show that she's in control. Oh, you finally lost that tooth. She had one goofy molar, but it was a baby tooth and she lost it. So she's lost one whole tooth, which means she is going to need to chew. She's still in that heavy teething phase, so we need to make sure that we give her appropriate things to chew on, especially anytime that she has a downtime. So as I mentioned, she's a very energetic dog, has a high drive, which means she needs a job to do. She's not going to be able just to sit and relax for long periods of time. When we are having her relax, I'm going to give her a toy, something to preoccupy herself, maybe a bully stick, just something to chew on. Because if we do not give her enough things to do, we don't give her enough exercise, she is a dog that could get destructive just because she is that higher energy, high drive. Also, don't be surprised when she's chewing on something and you see a little blood on it, because she is going to be losing those teeth. If she starts chewing on something, good girl, drop it. Good girl, good girl. If she starts chewing on something she's not supposed to, something of yours, I will replace it. So I will ask for that, drop it, and then I will give her something that she is allowed to chew on. I'm also going to try and match texture. So if she's chewing on something hard like a baseboard or a table leg, I'm going to give her a bully stick, something that's hard that she can dig into. She's chewing on socks or a soft bed, pillows, I'm going to give her something soft. So we want to match her needs, because right now she is chewing based on what she feels like her mouth needs as she's losing those teeth. Zoey, drop it. So I'm going to give her a second to process. Oh, good girl. As soon as she shows that she can let go, okay, I'm going to tell her good, and then okay to release it. So she, most of the time, will spit it out onto the ground, but sometimes she'll hold on to it, but as soon as like that, I reached out to take it, she just lets go. Which, my personal dogs, I want them to bring objects to hand. For the puppies, we work on both, but Zoey, drop it. No. Good, good. Okay. Notice I had to give her a little feedback there, then she let go of it and looked up at me. Zoey, drop it. So if she doesn't, I'm going to tell her no, and I'm going to remove it. So if I have to remove something, I'm going to reach around her muzzle and just kind of pinch those lips in around her canines, and it's like an eject button. Okay. Good girl. When kids play with our puppies, we want to make sure that we do have a toy available, so that way she has something to direct her teeth towards, and she's not trying to grab pant legs, arms, anything like that. Because small children are like the greatest game to a puppy. They run, they squeal, it's like a giant squeaky toy. So instead, drop it. No. If we have that toy, if kids get a little nervous, they can direct her away. Now, where she's kind of been a punk there twice with me with drop it and tried to hold on, this time when I ask for it, I'm going to have a hold of it, drop it, good. So that way I can give her immediate feedback. Good girl, good girl. Drop it, good dog, good girl. And there she let go of it just fine. She's doing great. Good girl. Drop it. No. Okay, good girl. Okay, so the very last thing that I want to talk about is mouthing. So Zoey is never allowed to bite my pant legs, my watch, anything that's mine, she's not allowed to mouth on. So if she does, if I was petting her, oh, good girl, and she stuck her teeth on my arm, I'm going to tell her no and close her muzzle. So she does not get to put her teeth on me. That's an absolute no-go. So with that, that covers our manners. So now let's move on to our commands. All right, so we are now going to go over a few of the obedience commands. So we're going to start with place. Place is one of my absolute favorite commands. It gives her a job. It gives her something to do where she's out of the way. She's not going to be under my feet. And it's a good way to practice some impulse control. So Zoey is definitely a high drive dog. She wants to be working. So this is a great thing to practice to help her calm down. Okay, good girl, good girl. So when I tell her place, I'm going to step near, point, place, good girl. Give her the command. Once all four paws are on, I tell her good and give her a treat. Now, I do not give her a treat when she comes off, because I want her to think the longer that she's in place, the more reward she's going to get. Okay, good girl. So we'll give her a warm-up round. Place. Now we'll make it a little longer, more duration, maybe add a few different distractions. Now notice right now she's kind of standing. I'm going to wait for her to settle in, and then I will go and reinforce the behavior of staying there. Because right now you can tell that she's anticipating being released, where I want her to be calm in place. Now, if she broke, I would quickly tell her no and then send her back to that place. Good. Again, she's settled in. I'm going to reward that. Good. Make it a little harder by actually closing the door. Good. Okay. Good girl. Good girl. Place. Like I said, if she would have broke, I would tell her no and then send her back. Now, as you're teaching her a new place, so we've been expanding this to be anything with a defined boundary. But when you start that, you're going to need to start slow and help her understand that whatever you've decided is the actual place where she needs to stay. Okay, good girl. So when I start with teaching her a new place, like here, we'll even use this rug for a minute. So I'm going to take her by the leash. I'm going to say place. I'm going to guide her on. Good girl. Mark that. Now, if she steps off of the mat here, oh, good. but she's staying on. No. So I can give her a simple correction. Okay, good girl. Kind of release her off. And now I would do it again. Place. Good. So we're just checking to see if she understands. So like I said, that can be anything with a defined boundary. We just want to take a few warm-ups, make sure that she understands. And then, okay, good girl. So you'll do the same thing with her new bed at your house. Guide her on, tell her place, reward her, release her, do it again. Okay, so that's place. Now the crate command. The crate command is very similar in the fact that I just tap on the top point, play, except for I said place. She understood, but the command is crate. Okay, so I just tell her crate. So tapping on top is our standard. Okay, we've gone beyond that to where I can just point. Zoey, okay, good girl. So I can tell her crate and just step and point. No. Good. Notice I'm not giving her the command again where she failed, but I just adjusted my body language. Okay, good girl. Crate. Good. Notice I can close this door, and once again, me opening that is not the release. Okay. If she really did not want to go in, and she like dug her heels in or tried to run away, I would tell her no, take her underneath the collar and guide her in. This is also a command that you're going to want to practice far more than you use to just lock her up. Because if you only use a crate command when you're going to lock her up, then you can get a dog that builds an aversion to it and goes the other way. Eventually, as she becomes an adult and you've practiced this enough, then absolutely you can just use it for locking her up. But early on, just spend time practicing this command. Zoey, I didn't put you in there, sweetheart. Crate. Good girl. Okay. All right, for the next couple commands, so we have the sit, down, and stays. So we have both a sit stay and a down stay. So our hand signals for sit is just a closed fist with the fingers towards the sky, and I'm just going to give her a little scoop. So it's sit, Zoey, sit, it's like that. Down, I take my hand flat off to the side, and then stay is a stop sign. No, down, stay. If she breaks, I just tell her no, reset her. Okay, good girl. This one, the treat comes at the very end. Early on while you're practicing this, you can absolutely give her a treat in between. But for us, we're to the point where I consider this a chain command, where that treat just comes at the end. So I'm going to stand her up again. Zoey. She's very, very good at guessing. Come here. Good girl, good girl. Come here. Sit. Down. Stay. Now I want to make sure that she saw that hand signal because she was sniffing the ground, which is pretty typical for her because her mind's going a million miles an hour. So I left that hand signal there a little bit longer to make sure that it registered. But you notice after she looked at it, I knew that she understood. I can take those hands away. You don't have to keep it out there. Okay, good girl. Now, if she comes up at all, even into a sit, I'm going to correct her and have her lay back down. But if I put her in a sit stay, stay, no, sit, stay. So this is Zoey just trying to guess and not listen, which you will see. Sit, stay. So no. So I have to give her a lot of feedback sometimes. Notice I put her in a sit stay though and she laid down. I'm okay with that. She's just getting settled. But once she goes into that down stay, she's not allowed to come back up. Okay, good girl. So we're going to do this a couple more times here, just because she's being a little finicky and breaking. And it's not even that she's willfully disobeying, it's that she's not paying attention. So I want to practice this. Stay. No. guess that one I didn't need to correct her because she's just laying down. She absolutely loves offering that down, which once again isn't necessarily a bad thing because the down is more stable. Okay, good girl. Let's do one more here. Sit. Stay. Okay, good girl. Good girl. Okay. So the next one I'm going to show you is leave it. We're going to use some different treats. So we're going to make this hard. Come here. So because I'm using food and food she's used to eating, I'm going to take a hold of the leash and just in anticipation that she may try and break. But I'm going to set this here. Maybe even leave it. Good. Good girl. Notice how immediately when I said that, she looked up at me. So leave it means leave it forever. Drop it as for when she has something in her mouth. Leave it as something for something before she ever gets there. So as she continues to ignore it and leave it alone, I will continue to reward her. Good girl. But if she goes for it, I'm going to quickly tell her, no, leave it. Good. Good girl. Good. Good girl. Notice she's completely leaving it alone, and that's the expectation. Good. Good. Perfect. Good girl. Okay. Now, I use leave it a lot when I'm on a walk. So if we were walking past something that I wanted her to leave alone, the moment that she even recognizes it, I'm going to say, leave it. Oh, good girl, good girl, good girl. And I'll reward her pretty heavily as we get past it. So, okay. So now I am going to move the camera angle a little bit, and we're going to go over the leash work as well as our recall command. So let me adjust that, and we'll hop back in. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. All right. So we're going to talk about her heel now. So the heel is not how we exercise our dog. No. This is for you. This is getting past a distraction. This is getting through a crowded area. This is when you need her to focus on you and not on the distractions around. So this is a very relationship-based walk. She has to trust you and has to have a good relationship in you in order to ignore these distractions around. So one, you need to practice a lot. You need to develop a relationship with her before you go and take her into heavily distracted environments. So practice out on your long lead walks. Do it for 2 to 5 minutes, and then let her go again, let her run around. And then gradually implement new and more distractions. So we don't want to take her and within the first 3 days expect her to heel through, a dog park or, anywhere where there's other dogs or other distractions. So my expectations during the heel. One, she's on my left side. She's keeping her focus on me and she's not pulling. I give her like 1.5 foot of space on the leash. So that way I can give her quick feedback. Because I'm expecting her to ignore all these distractions around, I'm going to give her a ton of feedback and I'm going to help keep her attention on me. Because otherwise, if we ignore her, if we don't give her that feedback, she's obviously going to get distracted with whatever we're trying to pass. So, when we heel, it is important to give her that feedback as well as reward her when she's doing good. We do need to make sure that we reward her over on this left side because otherwise Zoe wants to walk sideways so that she can stare at the treat pouch. The other thing with this is when I stop, I expect her to stop. I want her to stop off to my side. And for Zoe, if we're going to be stopped for a longer period of time, I am going to ask her to stay because otherwise she loses focus and tries to go explore. Because you just have lots of thoughts. Oh, good girl. Okay. So I'll just tell her heel and then start to walk. As she's focused on me, I'll tell her, good girl. Yeah, that's a good girl, Zoe. So when I'm on a heel, I'm just talking to my dog. I'm telling her that she's doing a good job. I'm giving her that feedback. If she tries to walk in front of me at all, I'm going to quickly correct her. Good girl. Good girl. And when I come to a stop, I expect her to stop, and I will give her just a little bit of pressure up on that leash. Good girl. So she stops off to the side. Okay. When we're on a walk, doesn't matter the type of walk or the length of the leash, she never gets to pull. If she starts to pull, I'm going to do a couple things. So first, heel. I will just do something to get her attention. Stay. So I would use her name, maybe some kissy noises, just something to get her focus back on me. Because the reason she's pulling is because there's a distraction. There's something that she's focusing on. So I will use, once again, I'm going to release her first. Okay, I'll go, Zoey. Something like that just to get her attention. Once she regains her focus, I'm going to tell her, good girl, reward her, and we can keep walking. But if she continued to try and pull, at that point, I'm going to tell her no, and I will correct her with those leash pops. So it's no, pop, pop. If she fixes her mistake, she looks at me, we'll keep walking. I'll make sure that she's actually focused, and then I will reward her. Okay? But if she continued to pull, then I would do it one more time. So I'd say no, pop, pop. I'd get a little more firm. If she listens to that, I'm going to reward her. We're going to keep walking. But if that is too much, like that distraction is too heavy, she can't focus on you, at that point I'm going to come to a complete stop. So it's like, hey, we are not progressing if you are going to pull. Hi. Sit. You can see how she loses that focus really quick. And once again, it's because she's got this high drive. She's just always wanting to do something. So a lot of times I'll ask for check-ins. She got up. Where we're standing and we are on this short leash, I am not letting her wander. So I'm giving her something to do. And she doesn't get a pull. Once again, even us stopped, any pressure in this leash, I consider pulling. So you can notice, though, how quickly that was where I just got her focus. I made sure that she's paying attention to me. Now she's doing good, and I will reward her. So if we came to a complete stop, I got her focus like this, then I would say, good girl, heel, and I would start walking again. If she went back to pulling, at that point, I am turning around. We are not progressing towards a distraction if we are going to pull. So I'm going to do a 180, walk away from that distraction. As she shows that she can regain her attention, we can turn around and walk back towards that distraction. But if she starts to pull, it's right back around. And notice how when I'm turning back and forth, I'm stepping through her. Okay? So that way, my body language is kind of changing her body language. I'm not letting her get ahead of me. I'm not letting her pull. Once she shows that she can be focused, then we can progress back towards that distraction. But I am never going to continue walking towards a distraction if she is pulling. Now, you are going to hit a point where whatever the distraction is, it's too much. She cannot focus. And so continuing walking towards it is going to be pointless. So instead, I would rather get distance from that and engage with her. So the distance I get from the distraction honestly depends on Zoey. So if I can just get 5 feet of distance and just move off to the side of the trail or the sidewalk and engage with her, that's what I'll do. But if I need to get 50 feet or 100 feet, just move further down the road so that I can start to get her attention, that's what I'm going to do. When I do this, I'm moving very quickly. Okay, so it's a quick pace, and I'm like, hey, come on, good girl, good girl. So at that point, once I get enough distance from there to where she still notices the distraction, but she's no longer pulling, I'm going to engage with her. Because trying to walk back towards it is just kind of pointless. Like, she's just going to get distracted again and go back into that red zone. So instead, I would rather engage with her. So what that entails is, one, I'll start with my back towards the distraction, having her sitting. So my body language is telling her we don't need to worry about that. Let's focus on me and you. And I'm going to reward her for looking at me. Anytime that attention fades, I can use kissy noises, or I'll use the watch me command to regain her attention. Watch me. Okay, good girl. Watch me is just to get eye contact. Once she shows that, hey, we can be calm, we can be in control, then I'll open back up and we can face the distraction. And at this point, we're going to do my favorite game of the art of doing nothing, where we are literally just going to sit here and watch that distraction go by. And I'm going to continue to get her to look at me or check in. So it's just flashes of attention. I'm like, oh, good girl. Oh, good girl, good girl. give her a lot of feedback. As she shows that she's continuing to be more and more in control, then we can start to move back towards the distraction or move past it. But the moment that she gets a little reactive, we're going to stop and we're going to get back in control. So the key to this is being calm and just showing her that, hey, I'm not worried, you shouldn't be worried. So once again, you have to have a good relationship with her in order for her to trust you that you're going to take care of her in this kind of strange environment or with this strange distraction. Okay, so I have Skylar with me now, and she's going to provide a distraction while I engage with Zoey, so we can kind of show you how this goes down. So, ready? Zoey, come here, come here. Zoey, good girl, good girl. There we go. No, good. No, good, good girl. Watch me. Good, good girl. No. Notice we're staying calm, but every time she tries to stand up, I'm just going to quickly step in front of her using my body, good girl, to block her, but also just trying to keep her focus on me.
Oh, you're so cute.
Good, good girl, good girl. No. Good, good girl, good girl. So we're just doing simple things to keep her focus. So she is definitely a dog that likes to be involved in everything, and so you are going to have to engage with her and use your body to block her. Keep her focus here. Do whatever it takes. Do not let her pull. Do not let her advance towards a distraction, no matter how heavy it is. Which in this case, I mean, she's very familiar with Skylar, very used to receiving instruction and praise and all the good stuff from her. So this is a good distraction. This is also why I don't let her greet other dogs on the street or let every new person come and meet her. So, okay, good girl. Now in this case, I'll release her and she can go and visit Skylar. So, the way that we exercise Zoey is with a long lead. As she gets older, you can work on having her off leash, but for right now, as you build a relationship, a long lead is the best way to exercise her. This is one of our shorter long leads. This one's 15 feet. It's perfect for, out in the neighborhood where she can have a little bit more room to sniff and run around, but she's still within a manageable distance where she's not going to get in trouble. During a long lead walk, I let her sniff, I let her explore, because I want her to be a dog. This is a walk to kind of get rid of that excess energy as well as release some of that mental buildup throughout the day. When we're on a long lead, she's running around. I do a lot of stepping over the long lead because I don't care where she's at with this. So that, it gets a little tricky. I shouldn't even say tricky, it just gets, you have to get used to it, okay? But no matter what, she's not allowed to pull. If I see her start to lose her focus or she starts running forward, I immediately get her attention. And this is where we practice her recall command, which the recall command is your most important command. It's how we get her to return to us when need be. So when I do that, when I need her attention or when I need her to focus on me and come back, my command, you're gonna come closer to me, is Zoey, come. Good girl, good girl. So I say her name, there's a brief pause, and then I say come. Once she initiates the action of coming to me, I tell her good girl, and then okay when she gets to me. Zoey, come. Good girl. Okay, if she ignores me or hesitates, I will tell her no, and I will give her a little tug. Okay, so yeah, again, it's harder to show some of this inside. Zoey, come. Good girl, good girl. Now, let's pretend that she ignored me. Maybe. Come on. Try and get her to give me some space here. Look, here's a treat on the ground. Be a good distraction, crumbs on the ground. So if I said, Zoey, come, and she ignored me, I would then say, no. Good girl, okay. So tell her no, put that tension in the leash So give her that tug, start to step back. Once she gives in, once she caves in, I'll tell her, good girl, and reward her as she gets to me. So with the recall, she never gets to fail. That's why we practice a lot with the long lead, because it's impossible for her to fail. Even if I had to continue to say no and give her that pressure and keep walking back, I'm helping her follow through, I'm helping her succeed. So I never end on failure. But there are going to be times where she's off leash and we need to call her to come. If she fails at that point, so if I said, Zoe, come, she's over there, she didn't hear me, I would say no, and I'd start walking towards her. Now, here she notices, good girl, good girl. I would then stop walking forward, walk back, reward her for coming to me. Because even though I had to say no and I had to go 75% of the way there, that last 4 feet she noticed me and started following, so I rewarded her for that and helped her follow through. If I had to go 100% of the way there, at that point, I would tell her no again. I would take that leash and I would say, Zoe, come. Good girl, good girl, good girl. And I would help her then complete the command by following me backwards. If we were in a situation where I just knew that she wasn't going to come, she had her head down a hole, didn't think that she could even hear me, at that point I'm just going to go and get her. I'm not going to shout come across the yard into the wind for her just to ignore me, because all that does is get us frustrated. Anytime I call my dog to come, I am going to reward her for coming to me, whether that's 100% of the way there, whether that's 1% of the way there. If she follows through, if she does that action of coming to me, even if it's for 4 feet, I'm going to reward that behavior. You cannot reprimand your dog while using the come command. That is a quick way to burn that out. But Zoe's a good little dog. She's definitely an explorer, so I would practice with the long lead on and really work on this stuff. She has a nose on her. She loves to explore. She loves to look for birds. She loves to look for mice. She's just always hunting something, and she's a goer. So be prepared for that high energy and give her plenty of outlets. But she is a super good dog, and she's been really fun to train. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Thanks.